Hi, and welcome to another episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Today, we are looking at my 1979 Kawasaki KZ1000 shaft, and I will be doing a technical video on resealing the carburetor intake boots. So if you want a lot of action, this is probably not the video for you, but if you want to learn something or are considering a similar job on your bike, hope it's informative. While I was in repairing the intake boots, I also checked the valves, I cleaned the carburetors, and retorqued the head bolts. All of these are essential jobs on the vintage bikes, and I just thought while I was in there working on it already, I would do those. No sense in taking apart the bike multiple times, and just wanted to get this project completely wrapped up for the time being.
All right, today we will be removing the carburetors on my 1979 KZ1000 shaft. It's the first time I've done this job on this bike, and just thought I would let you guys watch. And what I've had is when I have run the bike, I recently noticed that while it was on choke, I got a couple of backfires through the carburetor, and actually on the other side of the engine, behind these boots, I saw when the bike backfired through the carburetor, which is not uncommon when they're cold, but when it did that, it actually, I saw a little bit of puff of vapor come out behind the boot. So what I'm going to do is pull the carburetors first, then I have access to the boots, pull those, check their condition. I may put a little bit of non-hardening gasket material behind these. If I find that they are cracked and just not usable, I will have to replace those, but they can sometimes be challenging to get, and I think they're like 65 bucks a piece, so they're not super cheap. I don't see any visual cracks on the outside. I honestly don't anticipate any major surprises as I go in here, but that's what we're going to be working on today. All right, I have the carburetors removed. I also removed the airbox while I was in there. Just wanted to show you quickly, when you pull these out, you definitely need to be extremely careful. You don't want to strip those out in the head and then just have a costlier repair bill. This is what's called an impact driver, and what you do is kind of get that set up and put a little bit of pressure on it, and then we'll just hit the other end here with a hammer, but that way I don't risk stripping the head out of this bolt. And just like that, comes out nice and easy. right, everything looks good. The faces here are clean. I don't see any major cracks. And so what I'll do is just use a little bit of the Permatex Ultra Black gasket maker just around the back sides of each of these, and put it on. Once I reinstall these, I'm also going to come in here and wipe, make sure that I don't have any of that. You don't want any of the gasket material getting sucked in here. If you saw earlier, what I was doing is taking a clean rag and actually putting it through the intake boot into the head, and then just covering the intake boot with a cloth so I don't damage it, and just gently tapping it until it pops off of the cylinder head here. You just don't want to damage anything in here, and then that way, if this is stuff down in there, if there's any debris that comes off when these come off, when you pull this out, it pulls it back out of the head, keeps you from damaging your motor, which is, I'm sure, the last thing that you want to do. I've now completed the job on the intake boots, and they are all sealed and ready to go. While I was in there doing the job, I decided to do some things that just for my own peace of mind. So I have just gone in and retorqued all of my head bolts. I've also checked the valve clearances and replaced the valve cover gasket and little end caps. And right now, actually on the other side, I had an issue with my little rubber end caps pushing out as I tightened down the valve cover. And so I have loosened everything back up, pushed them back in, and I am very slowly torquing this down. I think these are 12 foot-pounds is what these are supposed to be torqued to. I'll double check in the manual here. But all the head bolts were torqued in sequence to 29 foot-pounds, and so that's peace of mind. Anytime you have the vintage bikes and you've got the tank off and you have access to the head bolts, it's always a good idea. They just, gaskets compress over time, and they simply need to be retorqued every once in a while. But that also really reduces the chances of your base and head gaskets starting to leak. So this one did not leak, and I didn't want it to start leaking. So that is finished. And once I've got the valve cover securely placed back on, and my end caps hopefully are not pushing out, I will go ahead and reassemble the bike. And I also, while I had the carburetors off, took the opportunity to disassemble them and thoroughly clean them. I'll give you a shot of those after they've been cleaned. But we are almost ready to start reassembling this 79 KZ1000 shaft. Can't wait to ride it once it's all put back together. Here are the carburetors for my KZ1000 shaft, and as you can see, while I had them off, I went ahead and thoroughly cleaned them, made sure inside and out, just made sure everything was set properly. What I noticed when I took them off was around my float bowls I had some gas seepage, and when I started to unbolt the float bowls, I found that most of the bolts were a little bit loose, and that's simply from the gasket here compressing over time. It looks like they were actually the original gaskets and still in good condition, but they had compressed a little bit, so the bolts needed to be tightened up. That's why I was getting some gas seepage around here, and even the tops of the carburetors I also, these bolts were starting to get a little bit loose too. So I have since disassembled, cleaned, and reassembled the carbs, and they should work great.
Today, I'm going to be doing a first start on my 1979 KZ1000 shaft. It's a first start after doing a valve check, carburetor cleaning, and intake boot resealing on the bike. I've had this apart for about 3 weeks now, and just yesterday got everything put back together, and looking forward to riding it again. It's a real pleasure to ride, and so I'll let you hear it. I'm going to go ahead and put it on prime here, get some fuel in the carburetors, and we'll start it up. Alright, as you can hear, no bad noises, everything sounded good. I have just checked the air pressure in the tires before pulling the bike out of the garage, and we'll make sure everything is ready to rock. Go for a little bit of a ride and come back and let you know how it went. Alright. Unfortunately, on the test drive, my front cam cover over here, little rubber plug, they were Vesrah parts, and as soon as it got heated up, it just popped right out. When I got home and looked at the rear seal, it also popped right out. Just the design of these, even the factory parts, this wasn't an uncommon thing, but they only have a lip on the outside and really nothing holding them in the head of the bike. And so yeah, I'm just disappointed here, but you know, that is the thing about motorcycles and working on them. You know, I'm thankful I was able to double up my gloves and actually just plug this hole on the way home. It was only about 5 miles from the house when it happened, so got hot oil all over my leg. I knew instantly what had happened. Pulled over and, like I say, doubled up my gloves and just rode home with one finger covering that front hole. This one managed to hold in place until I got home, and it literally just popped out while I was trying to wipe off some of the oil here. Did get some oil on the bike. Thankfully, the oil level did not go down below the safe point. It only went down a little bit. So certainly no harm done to the engine or to the bike. If I had been further away, I would have had to call for a tow. But not everything goes 100% according to plan, and that's why I'll probably title this episode Patience, because that is something that is required when you own something and use it on a regular basis that's as old as these bikes are. So I will go ahead and get back in there. I'm gonna have to just put everything all back together. I'll have to get back in there, take the tank back off, and figure out a way to put these plugs in so where they're not going to be popping out again. That's not acceptable. So I'll let you know what I do and how that fix works.